That's a great idea. Yeah, I'm really all for that. Yeah. Says the slides are moving too.
Harley says slideshow is great and pool was well done.
No. Okay, can I get everyone's attention quickly? We're going to start in about 5 minutes for the Q&A. So how we're going to do, folks, how we're going to do the question and answer is we're challenged because of our friend called COVID. So we can only have 50 people in the room at any given time. And right now, if you look around, we have 50 good folks from all over here in the room. So we're capped at how many we can let in. We have another session at 6 o'clock that's going to run till roughly 8. It's going to be a repeat of this afternoon. It's not a separate session. So the question and answer, what we ask you to do, because we want to make sure we get everyone's questions here because we have limited time. We have to wrap up by 5, get ready for the 6 o'clock. But we will go over, if we have to go over, answer your questions as best we can, because we know there's lots of questions. So Councillor Bob Evans is up there. We all know Bob. Bob's going to be sort of the moderator. If you have any questions, see Bob, have the question presented to Bob, ask the question, he'll get it on the sheet. And if you wanted it directed to the panel up here, there's myself, Evan, there's Bill Miller from Habitat for Humanity, and Aveen representing the community healthcare and the rural healthcare delivery component of this proposed facility. So that'll be the panel. Aveen, Bill, and myself will try his best to answer all your questions. If at the end all the questions are done, I have no problem accepting questions from the floor because we want to make sure that you have all the answers before you leave. For those that want to join us tonight at 6 and do a retake, there'll probably be different questions, but the same concept. Feel free to join us, but please remember we're only capped at 50. I believe we're live. We're going Zoom as well. Yeah, we're on Zoom. So if you have to go and you got nothing better to do tonight, there's nothing on NBC or CBC, you can Zoom in and we will be on live on your television or your computer. So, how about CNN? CNN, no Steve, not CNN. So if you just have that in the back of mind, make sure your questions get to Bob, and then we can start. So with that, I hope everyone had a chance to go around and see what we have presented in terms of a cursory review of all the different things we're looking to build in downtown Sicamous, which is quite frankly very exciting, but it comes with a lot of questions and concerns, and we're here to listen. We're here to listen. I'm not here to pitch this. I'm not here to sit here and say this is the way it's going to be. I know better than that. I'm not elected. Okay. I'm a good listener. I promise to listen. That's why we're doing this, because I realized the community was confused with some of the things that had happened, and there's a lot of questions. So that's why we're here. So with that, if I can ask Bill and Aveen to come join me, we'll get the old rodeo going. Yeah.
I'm not Bill.
So you're just going to go and bring the microphone over, Bob, when we're done. Make sure everyone can hear. Okay, let's start.
Check. Okay, it's working. Good, Mike. Good afternoon, folks. I've written down a whole bunch of questions, and like Evan said, you can bring me more. There is a buttload of Post-it notes on those tables over there. If you want to write it down, or you can come over and ask me while they're answering, and I will write down your questions in my chicken scratch. So here we go. First question. Okay. How are we going to connect the rail trail to Main Street? Would that be a question to you, Evan?
Oh, I love delegating. Can I delegate that to Councilor McKay or not? You can reject it.
I'll take that.
Sure, because this is a portfolio that Councilor McKay is involved in. I'll defer to Malcolm. Thank you.
Can everyone hear?
I'll talk loud, so I think everybody can hear me. Sorry for not having my mask on when standing. Yeah, so transportation is one of my portfolios as council, and on the first term, we're trying to get the Broom Bridge to have a car bridge at the end of Main Street. Minister of Transportation decided they had two options at the end there, from 6 down to 2, and one was a 5-lane bridge on Trans-Canada, or a 4-lane bridge with a car bridge on Main Street. So they went dark for about 14 months, and then when they sent us all a postcard just before Christmas, December 18th, said, okay, we've chosen the 5-bridge option, but now it's going to be a 5-lane bridge on Trans-Canada, but now it's 4-lane. Okay, well, can we at least have a pedestrian bridge at the end of Main Street to connect our rail trail? And they said, no, it's outside of the scope of the project. I said, well, you had the federal minister here in town a year back, standing in the council chambers, saying that he's willing to fund either project, a car bridge on Main Street or 5 lanes on the highway. But they said, no, it's outside of the scope. So as with that as my portfolio, I've been striving to have a pedestrian bridge at the end of Main Street. But while we're working towards that, before you can get funding for that, you have to have a master plan for your trail system. And we didn't have that, so we applied for a grant to get a master plan done, $50,000. We were just recently awarded that. So once we get our master plan together, then we can start applying for funding to help public engagement for a pedestrian bridge at the end of Main Street to connect to the trail. In the meantime, our staff have been working very closely with the Ministry of Transportation on the Broom Bridge project, which is now a 4-lane bridge. But they're going to have not just a sidewalk, but a pathway that's 3 meters wide on Broom Bridge. It's going to be separated with 810 guardrail, like the higher median guardrail, and it's going to go from the west end of the bridge down and connect onto the rail trail. So that's all included in the scope and cost of the Broom Bridge project. So once they tender that, we're thinking next spring, maybe they'll go to tender on that. BC Hydro's doing some work right now. That's the work you see right now. So in the long term, I hope that we have a pedestrian bridge at the end of Main Street that brings foot and cyclists to downtown Maine. In the meantime, there's accommodations in the Broom Bridge design to accommodate a pathway that goes across the bridge and connects to the rail trail at the ministry's expense as part of the scope of the bridge project.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you.
Okay, question number 2. Why are we not using Finland Place for a medical center? Why are we not using that for a medical center since we already voted?
Thank you. Is this on?
Is this on?
This is on. Great question. I've been asked that via emails and phone calls. As you know, folks, in 2017, council purchased 217 Finlayson. 217 Finlayson used to be the B-Stone building. Okay. When the district purchased it, we were surprised to learn that roughly 5,500 square feet on the ground floor and 5,500 square feet on the second floor makes up 11,000 square feet. Less than 3,000 square feet was the Sicamous Medical Clinic. The rest of the tenants, as you know, most of you know, there's a dentist in there. At the time, there was a optometrist. There was physiotherapy. And then upstairs, there's a digital res. There is a high-speed internet company. And there was a yoga studio that was run by Georgina Kylo. And so there were other tenants. So even though we want to move and build a brand new community health center, we can't displace those current tenants in the current building. What we're hoping to do, because the building's paid for, there's no debt on it. The building remains in the ownership of the folks, the people of this community. We're hoping to transition that building into either community space where we can have children's programs, recreation space, or maybe even better, job creation, work with the Dev Corps, bring in other businesses to fill that space. The other option is we could sell it. But right now we're in desperate need of community space and we don't want to take away the existing tenants, the private companies that are in there. Most notably the dentist office. Moving dental equipment is very expensive. It's an intensive operation to move that expensive equipment. And we have promised them we want to leave them there for at least 5 years before they determine if they want to move with us to our new facility. In addition to that, the parcel size is limited in space when you look at parking, and we've done some preliminary estimates what a new building, plus we want to incorporate green space and park space in the new building. We just don't have the space. So the short answer is we've got other uses delegated for that building, primarily commercial, primarily dentistry, and recreation community space.
Okay. What do you envision to be the variety of occupants in the new wellness center, in the healing center? What will it be? Therapists, doctors, dentists, counselors? Can you elaborate on who the main tenants would be in our healing center?
I'll take that one. So to add to Evan's last answer also, it would be very difficult for the community to shut down the current community health center, right? If it were to be raised at the current site and a new site built there, you'd have to go probably a year or more with no health services. We don't want that for you and your community. So in a proposed new building, we would move your existing medical providers, family medicine primarily, in addition, your support staff. But a community health center is really designed as a one-stop shop for health services that's owned by the community. It's not a private physician's office. We envision that mental behavioral health services, peer support, some other therapeutic programs could be, you have a caregiver in your family who needs some respite and or support. You may have been discharged from the hospital or a family member is discharged from the hospital. So you can go to the health center, get support for that, be able to have some triage and maybe even some referrals. We envision in a future development, addition of things like pediatric services, women's health, prenatal care, geriatric services and specialties, lab services. So there's a range of things that would be nice to have, can't fit into your current community health center today, but could be under the auspices of a community health center and the healing environment. In addition to that, there are others that could lease space or join as tenants. We talked about having the optometrist, having some hearing services, potentially expanded dental services, could have a pod for visiting specialists, telemedicine. Really the sky is the limit. What eventually goes into that building has to address unmet need in the community as identified by all of you. So that's where the priority comes, is the community members share what are the priorities and what are the needs.
Yeah, just to add to that, this is a huge endeavor that council has taken on, because as most folks know, healthcare is a provincial responsibility. BC Health operates hospitals. They work with different partners. We all know the Vernon Hospital. We all know the Salmon Arm Hospital. I think most of us understand what Interior Health, the region, provides the area. It's a large area. Municipalities don't run healthcare. Okay, this is a very bold move that council's made, and it's all because of securing and retaining our doctors. That was really the primary reason council decided to do something. We knew we would not receive funding from IHA to build a publicly funded clinic just for residents of Sicamous. That's not what IHA does. So we made a hard look at this. Council looked at the different options, and rather than losing our private clinic upon the retirement of Jack Beach, council made a strategic priority to purchase Finland Place, purchase the existing private clinic just prior to Jack's retirement, and open up in June of this year as a community health center, which is owned and operated by the taxpayers, the district of Sicamous. You know, we have doctors on payroll now. And that's a big, bold move, and it's all about keeping healthcare and primary healthcare and services in our community. And a lot of people have asked, you know, give that back to the province. If we do that, we have to shut down the health center and wait for the province to build us something, which we know they won't. We've asked them. Go to Salmon Arm, go to Vernon, there's services elsewhere. And it's called a catchment area, and they've got their own formulas and rules. And so with this community health center, we didn't want another private clinic coming because there were no private clinic buyers to purchase the clinic from Jack and Pam Beach. It was closing. So that was the reason council started in 2017 on this journey called Community Health Center.
All right, another question. I've heard that this would be a rehab facility for drug addiction. Is this true?
Yeah, that's another question we've been asked. I know that the paper called me, the Eagle Valley News, we did an article on it. The best way I can answer that is the following. The answer is an emphatic no. Treatment facilities, addiction centers, places where people need a place to go and stay. They can stay anywhere from 3 nights to 3 weeks to 3 months. That service primarily is provided by the private sector. You have to have kitchen facilities. Okay, you have to have accommodations, you have to have beds. That's not what this facility we're building has. We don't have kitchen facilities, nor do we have beds. Okay, the only bed we have is for outpatient services. You come in, you see a physician, it's no different than a clinic now, but you're not staying overnight. An addiction treatment center is basically a facility that's inpatient that requires overnight accommodation, and that's offered by the private sector. We're not going to compete with that. That's not what we're proposing to build. First Nations Health Authority, which is a separate body from the Interior Health Authority, we've also been working with them, hoping to bring them to the table on this whole truth and reconciliation, working with Splatsin, which we'll get into later. They also run treatment addiction centers funded by the province and their own internal services. There's one in Armstrong. There's an addiction center. There's 2 in Salmon Arm. We wouldn't even be eligible to qualify because we don't have kitchen facilities and we don't have accommodations designed in our new community health center. You want to add anything?
One of the things that will be a support is that triage and referral piece. So many of us, most of us and our families are touched by things like alcohol, you know, substance issues, mental health, you know, behavioral health issues. So having a central place that is your medical home, your patient-centered home, to be able to get support for those issues is an absolute benefit to the community. So that's the nuance there, because these things are a part of our lives. The direct services are not, this is not a facility licensed for those direct services, but we do want to offer support and triage and referral for any of our community members who are either suffering or have a family member or community member that needs help. This becomes a gathering place. It becomes a one-stop shop that's convenient. You don't have to get in your car and drive 30 to 45 minutes to be able to ask someone for help or support.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. You get a special favor here, Steve. Go.
Do you want the
Is
money?
this,
Yeah.
Speak loud.
could we move really quickly
Sure.
or quicker if maybe we had a little bit of participation with some of the questions and the answers?
know that some of them are going to get. So if I can comment on your statements, that would be really good if anybody else wants. to.
Yes, Steve, I'm making sure that there's no repeats. That's what I've got our list of written questions.
Okay, so then we can comment then?
Well, we like to run
That's
through
what
the
you wanted to
questions,
do.
but if you want to just ask a quick question specific to that question, go ahead.
I'd like to ask why in the grant application documents that
Yeah.
addiction services are mentioned numerous times in the application
Uh-huh.
of the district Maine. In essence, the district has told us once again today that no, there's no addiction services being offered, but the doctor here says in theory, yes, they will be.
Yeah.
So we need to have, a few needs clarification on that. If we're gonna have someone come in, visit the doctor, the psychologist for 10 minutes, but it's addiction based. It could be totally other than mine for the next 24 hours. So is that going to attract things like that towards the community?
The short answer is what I mentioned before. In our broader community, if you look at the numbers, 70% of individuals over the course of a lifetime will have a behavioral health and potentially an issue around, let's call it substances, right? When the grant applications are submitted, that addiction services is a general term that's around what I described, triage and referral. Direct services is a very different thing. It's a very specialized licensure for which this community health center would not qualify. Does that help answer that?
So the answer is yes, then it will be. Am I correct? Yes.
The answer is any licensed healthcare professional in managing a patient has to ask those questions. You've probably been in your annual visit where your provider says, how many drinks do you have a day? Do you take any medication? Do you use any substances? That is considered addressing addiction. So, but that isn't a detox facility. That isn't the other pieces that have been described, I think, by community members. It's really important to address that distinction because the specialized addiction and inpatient detox services are what I believe many community members are concerned about and maybe even afraid of because the scope is intense. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is primary care, a medical home for your community members. Whole person care, mind, body, spirit.
One of the things I learned, just to end on that question, since we've opened our community health center in Sicamous, the physicians that work for all of us, that's one of the primary things they're dealing with. There's addiction problems right here in Sicamous right now, and it's serious. We deal with that, but as a referral triage, we refer them, and that will not change, Steve. And I thank you for that question because that is a question that people have asked point blank to me. Will it change the makeup of downtown Sicamous? We're a tourist community. We welcome people all over the world to this beautiful area called the Shuswap. Do we want to be having a treatment addiction center in downtown Sicamous? It's a valid question. And that's why it's important for us to hold this meeting and distinguish between what Dr. Elaine talks about, which is the referral triage and referral, especially where we see patients right now and we refer them if they need additional counseling, overnight stay, treatment addiction elsewhere. Thank you.
I will ask the next question. I often hear that we need Main Street to be the heart of our tourism-based economy, and that we must carefully plan how this is developed to help us keep improving our communities. Is this at odds with using Main Street real estate for housing, healthcare, and what about Finland or other areas? So let's break it down. A couple questions. Is the use of Main Street real estate for housing and healthcare contradicts our need to keep Main Street as a tourism-based Then I have another one.
Sure, I'll just start and maybe, I don't know if Bill wants to chime in or others, but any
Evan?
small community
Evan, could you just repeat the question into the microphone?
for the folks online.
Yes, please, if you don't mind.
Okay, the question basically was, what is the district doing in terms of developing their downtown and the relationship with housing, and how is housing incorporated in?
Is it going to contradict tourism?
Will it contradict tourism? Thank you. So that's the question. Tourism is their bread and butter. We all know that, whether it's the houseboats in the summer, whether it's the sleds in the winter, and all the other activity in between. There's motocross, there's active and passive recreation. The downtown is the jewel of any community. We want to bring wallets into the downtown. We want businesses to be open 12 months a year, not 4 months a year. So how do you do that? You know, any planner, any good planner will tell you what you try to do is, you've all heard the term work, live, and play. You want to put people in the downtown. The major cities have people in the downtown. You don't need a car, you walk. You've got park space, green space, you've got trails. We don't want you dependent on an automobile. And it's, you know, density, intensity, you maximize your density in the downtown area. On Main Street, we can't have all housing, but right now we've got a mix of R4, R5, R1, residential 1, single family homes. We had a couple of derelict buildings. What we're trying to do is bring more people to the downtown, so to develop a business base. Residential, usually commercial follows. If you put commercial, usually residential follows. That's what we're trying to do with the proposed development with our partner Habitat for Humanity. In terms of tourism, it's all about enhancing businesses. Again, we don't want them open just June, July, August, September. We want them open year round. And you do that by bringing the number, which I believe in my 30 years experience, I'm sure Fred over here, my friend Fred, retired CAO, will tell you, the magic number in a small town is about 5,000. 5,000 people, it almost runs itself. The services are funded by the tax base. When you're below 5,000, it's very difficult to fund services. You're either borrowing or waiting for grants, which is where we're at. Our population increases in the summer tremendously, but in terms of permanent taxpayers, you want to get to that sweet spot between 4,000 and 5,000 ideally, with good planning, and you want to bring people to the downtown. So that's what we're focusing on with this housing crisis facing the country. We want good housing. We don't want poor housing. And we don't want shady development, and we don't want shoddy construction. And that's why we've made it a passion of ours to find the right partner to bring affordable, attainable housing, which we believe we found with Bill and his group. It's about bringing people downtown, supporting the businesses. In addition to that, when you bring people, you have to have parks, and you have to have trails, and you need community space when you do that. So we do have plans to do all of that with Eagle Valley and Habitat for Humanity. We have plans to enhance park space at 200 Maine, and there already is, the pedestrian bridge crossing, hooking up to the rail trail, et cetera, to feed the need of the tourists coming. But we all want them concentrated downtown. So we have that commercial base that services the residents and the tourists 12 months of the year. Do you want to add anything, Bill?
I think maybe just my observation is, when we look at the planning of any community, it's changed over the years. I remember years back where there was the segregation of services. The multifamily housing had to be over here, and the single family low density had to be over there, and commercial was here, and with the industrials over there. So it's all changed now. A lot of the planning now is based on livable, walkable communities, and in particular in a small community like Sicamous, we're looking at making that an integrated community. So we're bringing the housing part of it downtown. We're mixing our project with some main floor retail, commercial, and then maybe service providers. And the residential area can be, whether it's home ownership or it's rental, or it may be housing for the workforce that works in that downtown core area. So you are still servicing your tourist sector, and you're doing it more with an integrated living community. So all of your amenities and facilities can be easily accessible by all of the incoming tourists, but also the residents that you have there too. So you're servicing both sectors. And I think you'll find that as it develops, it's going to be a very good thing for the community. And you will stand out from others.
Thank you. Yeah, no, good point. What's the number? Is it 5,000? 5,000. So great question. At the population of 5,000, that's why we're gonna keep it at 4,998. And there's communities that have done that. See Beachland. They've actually done that. They lied on their census. That's a fact. Hello, Beachland. At 5,000, we go from, is it 10% to 50 or 75% in terms of RCMP policing? I think it's 75% if I recall. So yeah, you gotta be afraid of growth pressures because that's when the province stops providing free policing to communities under 5,000 currently. And the taxpayers have to step up and pay 75% of policing after that threshold number. So that's another thing we have to be cognizant about. We can't put 900 units of housing and have an explosion. You will have more taxes to pay that bill, but that's a reality. And thank you for bringing that up.
We have a lot of questions, so we.
Yeah, I know, I'm getting long-winded, sorry.
It's 4 o'clock and this is done at 5.
Thank you.
So here we go. The next question is, why did we switch the medical clinic from Main Street across from Askews to 200 Main?
That must be Mary.
That was
That was
3
Hey,
people.
Mary. No, I bring up Mary because we talked about that just before. I was just kidding. Fantastic question. Folks, it's simple. We had a groundbreaking ceremony in July of 2020. I don't know if most saw it. It was online. It's when we celebrated the partnership with Splatsin to build the healing center at what I call 417425, which is the property right across from Askews. That was the plan. We were going to work with Eagle Valley. Rona's here today. She's the chair of the society. You all know Rona Martin from Area E. We've been working on this now, Rona, for 3-4 years. That was the plan. It was at the last minute that the gentleman to my right met with the municipality after a failed attempt to do a development in Enderby, pitched a plan to bring attainable housing, affordable housing to Sicamous. The way to keep the cost down was the district gift the land or entertain a possible partnership down the road where that development could be either run by us in the development court or Habitat for Humanity. So we had to come up with land. That's when it was switched. And that's when we released in public that we would like to sit down with Habitat for Humanity to put the 58 units proposed commercial development on Main Street, 417425, and move the healing center, preserving half of 200 Main Park, and put the building back to the east side and build this healing center. That's it. And it was done literally in August of 2021. It was released publicly. And trust me, folks, I heard from everybody. My email lit up. I don't do Twitter because I'm over 50, but I got a lot of people saying, why did you change direction? You haven't explained it to us. And I went, yeah, you're right, we haven't. I'm not suggesting it's the perfect move. We're trying to save both projects. We're trying to save the healing center. We're trying to save the Habitat for Humanity development because affordable housing is paralyzing our workers and our seniors and our low-income earners in this community. There's nowhere to rent. You know that. And so that's what we're trying to do. That's why we switched sites. Thank you.
And I'll just ask, I'll elaborate on your question because you're the one that asked it. Is this just going to be a professional building that's taking away business from existing landlords? Or is it going to be dedicated as a medical center? Like, you tested it?
You mean the new proposed health center?
Will it take away from existing businesses? Like, will it be a professional building? Basically, it's gonna be a community health center. It's gonna be owned and operated by us. It's gonna focus on health and healing, both indigenous, non-indigenous. There'll be no commercial in it. No commercial. We can't rent space to the private sector. Why? Because that would break the agreement we have with the federal and provincial government for funding. So they provided us $6 million to build this. We can't have commercial space in the healing center.
So you're going, that means you're going to bring other businesses that will compete with
Which businesses are those? We're only bringing in healthcare services.
physiotherapy?
If there's room and there's a market for additional physiotherapy, yes, we'll talk to those folks. We're not going to chase it, but if someone comes to us and they want to bring allied healthcare and additional healthcare services, that's what our new facility is for.
How do we pay for
How do we pay for the capital or the operating?
the operating?
The operating right now is paid by us. The district of Sicamous is covering the cost. How it works right now, and I can't talk about the future, but just simply, right now, in our first year, there's going to be a deficit, and that's paid by the taxpayers to keep healthcare in Sicamous. What we do is we have an 80-20 split with the physicians. So what we do is we bill the province for doctor's time. We keep 20% to pay the operating costs, and 80% goes back to the physician. As we grow and get additional physicians, more revenues, if we can bring in other healthcare providers, even though they're private, I just want to make sure when I say no private, I mean no Starbucks, no, you know what I mean, no non-healthcare. But if it's a healthcare provider that says, hey, I'd like to take space, we will lease that space. That will drive revenues to help pay for it. We're also looking at potential operating funders, whether it's working with First Nations Health Authority, working with IHA, getting our healthcare center sanctioned, where some operating dollars can flow into this new building moving forward. Steve?
My question here goes a little bit along with this. How can the district justify the maintenance costs moving forward of the building of the statue? Where are you going to house the people? How are you going to get physiotherapists here and addiction counselors to come to this community when you have no housing for? I think that the cart is getting put in front of the horse here. I'm completely against the location of the center. I approve development wholeheartedly. I think wholeheartedly is wonderful. I'm against downtown core completely being used for affordable housing. I've built thousands of units. It's not good location to have that. We need it, agreed. Where are you going to put the doctors? We have trouble getting doctors to come here as it is. So how is the district going to justify filling all those holes of professionalism? And who's going to pay for that moving forward? Who's going to maintain that? So you're going to have a big white elephant just sitting there?
No, not under my watch. No, we're not going to have a white elephant.
Now I see something down already.
No, well, one of the, no, I hear you, Steve. One of the reasons that we're excited about Habitat for Humanity, I thought at first it was just attainable housing. I thought what Eagle Valley and the district's been working on is subsidized housing, focusing on seniors, focusing on people with physical disabilities, veterans, low-income families. What Habitat has, and I can have Bill speak on it, is a mix of. So some of the doctors can hopefully take one of those units. It's not just for those that are below the market in terms of their ability to pay. It's a mixed use, and that's what makes Habitat proposal exciting. That a physician or anyone else can live in a nice unit in the downtown. The reason we chose the downtown is land we own. How do you keep a housing development attractive in costs when the land costs on top of the capital cost for a for-profit organization puts the housing out of place for a lot of people that want to purchase or rent a home? So Bill, did you want to talk about the mixed use a little bit?
Just to add to that, so what I was talking about is when we originally looked at this design, it was at the request of the Enderby Legion, and we developed it for them what we call a real estate asset management model to operate this facility where there were sufficient revenues to cover the operating costs of having that project. It's designed to be mixed residential, mixed residential commercial. So the main floor is commercial retail. Right now there's a number of spaces on that floor that could be for professionals. It could be for retail outlets. It could be for Starbucks, whatever. So there's an opportunity there. The upper four floors, the way it's designed right now, are residential. And they are a mix of unit sizes from 1 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms. Now, we have the flexibility at this point of turning that into a completely stratified building and selling all units at market rates to the people that are coming in, and we can mix use it with affordable, or we don't call it affordable anymore, we call it attainable. So that we can provide a model for people to actually be able to afford a mortgage payment if they choose to live in that particular facility. So on a home ownership model, it can be strata titled, it can be full bore retail based on fair market values, and it can be fair market value with some financial assistance for those with more moderate income. Alternatively, we could turn the whole thing into a rental building. We are at the preliminary design and conceptual stage. We spent 1.5 years designing this facility for a small community downtown core. And we think we've wrapped in a number of things that will benefit the community, the workforce in the community, tourism, and we'll be able to accommodate a mixture of those needs. So we're in a conceptual stage. We're having this meeting to present these ideas to you. We will come back through a number of iterations. Design review, we have some flexibility at this point, but the concept is mixed residential commercial for a downtown core. And we have a very professional architectural firm that came up with the design. They're known all over the country. They work closely with PCL and other funders. So the design as it sits right now is specifically for a small community to augment housing and the downtown core commercial. And in answer to the question, that gentleman about who's paying the bills, this is self-sustaining, pays the bills from its own revenues.
Thanks, Bill. Okay,
Okay, moving on. We have a question here. Is DOS willing to allow residents to vote on the development of 200 Main Street? Referendums.
yeah, that's a council decision, it's not an Evan Parliament decision. I'm not elected. I work with council. That's a council decision. And that's something that the folks can ask council, whether it's a referendum, it's an informal survey, it's a poll, it's an alternative approval process, but that's a question for council.
Yes. The question that was asked was, is the model that was designed by Habitat for Enderby, has it been done anywhere else? I'll just give you a short version of me. This is my 47th year doing this. I'm not reinventing any wheels. We bring to the people we work with proven models that work. And we designed this one in, specifically for the Enderby Legion because they were going broke. So we came up with a mixed unit or a mixed opportunity for residential commercial that would generate revenues. It's a model that's been used all over North America. It's nothing that is just designed specifically for that particular end user. So the model applies, and where you want to put it is, it's entirely flexible. So
I would just add one thing to that. From the standpoint of recruitment and retention, I think Steve over here had some questions around that for the health center. A lot of your young professionals are not high income earners. They come out with some education, some debt, difficulty finding attainable housing. This is an opportunity to recruit some of those emerging professionals and their families bring them into your community, have those services at the ready for you here without having to drive 30 to 45 minutes, and then retain them. And that then will help you attract additional services like the pediatrics, the women's health, the geriatric services that we talked about. So there are sweet spots for all of that demand and need. And the center's being designed not so that you outgrow it the day you move in, but so that it grows with the community and the needs in the community.
To what Dr. Green just said? No,
We're running.
okay,
So just hang on, Steve, can we get you at the end? Can we get you at the end? We just gotta get through these.
we gotta get through people's questions. Hang on to that. Can you write it down?
It's just that people are waiting for the questions to be asked, that's all.
Thanks,
Due
Steve.
respect.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay. Who owns the dental office across from Askews?
Dr. Bruce Coppets,
Okay,
Procopets. Shame on
Dr.
me.
Prokopets.
Sorry, Bruce. Privately held. Great dentist.
What happens to the land across from Askews now? What is the plan for that whole property?
Very quickly, on the map back there, where am I? Right behind Councilor McKeough. What we have is make sure you get this right, Evan. Help me, Malcolm, 2.5 acres total, 2.5 acres total of DOS lands nestled adjacent to Eagle Valley Communities, Senior Citizens Housing Society. They run the Haven, the Lodge, the Manor. The drop-in center is part of this whole, what I call precinct of care, if you will, this area. Eagle Valley has its own land right beside here. Eagle Valley has given up some of their land for 20 units of seniors housing, led by Rona's team. The district has given up an acre of shared land to provide 16 units of housing. In addition, the district will provide an acre and a half, correct? Get the numbers right, to Habitat for Humanity, or an acre roughly. Acre shared parking. So in short, Habitat, Eagle Valley, Park Space, DOS lands, Eagle Valley lands, centered around what we call this area sort of this precinct of care. So we're putting housing with housing, proposing putting housing with housing on Main Street, adjacent to the Eagle Valley development, in a partnership with Eagle Valley.
Thank you. Why are we not building the healing center on a different lot in town?
Short answer, cost. Right now, in 2015, a council purchased 200 Maine for $550,000. In 2017, we purchased Finland Place for $690,000. In 2019, 2020, we purchased 417, 425, and half of 433, the back end of Bruce's property, for the just over 900 and some thousand. Those were all funded internally, no debt. Cash that Kelly was able to find. That land was earmarked for what we're talking about here today. To acquire any more land requires debt financing or a donation from someone. We've looked at all kinds of land on Finlayson. I spent 2 years on that area. It's all privately held, very difficult to acquire. We'd have to go and borrow money for purchasing additional land to find the home for the healing center, the community health center, or a home for Habitat for Humanity. And we're trying to keep their project down. So we're just out of land other than going into debt. We still have some debt on other municipal projects, infrastructure. We're just trying to keep the debt. Can we go and ask the people to borrow more money to buy land? Council can, yes. There is some room to incur more debt to buy land. We can, but I know it's this council's mandate to keep the taxes very low. Every $45,000 we borrow, every $45,000 we spend is 1% increase in taxes. So if you buy land at $450,000 for a lot, that's a 10% tax hit. If you want to pay it in 1 year, 5% over 5% each year over 2 years, et cetera, et cetera. So the short answer is cost.
Thanks. Most Sicamous residents do not want to pay for the upkeep of a regional healing center. They must have done a poll. Why has the DOS signed up Sicamous taxpayers for all costs of maintenance for a regional healing center without allowing them the input?
So right now, we just opened in June 2021. Right now, we're the only major funder because it was about maintaining and keeping our rural healthcare. So council made a conscious decision to use internal revenue sources, grants and monies that we had to help fund on an operational level the community health center moving forward. With the new facility, and I'm talking about 217, our current facility, when I say our cost to fund the existing community health center. Our new facility, we know we're going to be the major contributor, but we also have plans to lobby IHA to make our facility sanctioned, eligible for operating dollars. We want to talk to the regional area about contributing to this medical clinic, this community health center, because it serves the entire region. We want to talk to First Nations Health Authority, Interior Health Authority, and other contributors. So ideally, we can break even. The more doctors we hire and the more people that visit, called the patient panel. We're right now just under 2,000. We want to get it to 3,000. We want people from Salmon Arm coming. That drives revenues, and hopefully, long-term, this facility goes into the black. We, government, don't want to be running this. The plan is we're going to create a foundation, a community health foundation, a non-for-profit society made up of experts in healthcare, moving forward down the road for them to operate and run with the different funding partners. That's the plan.
If you juxtapose communities of your size with no infrastructure around healthcare, no physicians embedded in the community, there's a major effect on health outcomes, safety, and the like. So this is an investment in retaining the current medical providers that you have and that safety factor. I'm looking at several of you who have conditions that you live with that you manage every day. If the closest place for help is 30 to 45 minutes away, that is a challenge. So this investment in the short term is going to continue to help develop your health infrastructure for the community for decades to come. Now, the additional services around that, based on the size and scope of your population and the needs and the demographics, you can add to that. But that core primary care, family medicine providers, you're very fortunate to have retained that. I've heard about several small communities that have initiated efforts to build a community health center of their own. And, it's very difficult to do that from scratch. So you had an existing clinic, you were able to retain that. And now as a community, the community health center advances and enhances that.
Thank you. I'll just make a short comment. When we as an affordable housing provider or developer look at housing projects, what's happened over the past number of years is that we are looking more, I'm a boomer generation, and I know a lot of your folks in here too. We look at designing our residences with an aging in place factor. And what we found over the years in the smaller communities, there's been a large out-migration of the seniors and elders because there's no medical care. So the small communities are losing their elder population to urban centers where they have better access to healthcare. So to have a medical facility in town, and then along with our project is going, which is by the way designed to age in place and universally mobile, it will be a benefit to retaining the people that are already here that want to stay here and don't want to have to move to a larger center where there's better medical care.
I've heard a lot of information on why we need the healing center. It needs to be built, but not why it has to take up green space at 200 Maine. Is there any other location that would suit the center without the loss of green space? Kind of close.
I was at the Legion the other day. And I was having a beverage with Sid Lorella. And Sid said, Parliament, you played ball hockey on Main Street. You participated in the Main Street events in the park, and you know the value of 200 Main. You were there. And I was there. I was first there in 2016. And we all remember those glory pre-COVID days. Remember the days we used to get together and there was no masks? Why is the district adamant at carving up 200 Main to put any development? It doesn't matter if it's a healing center, if it's habitat, any commercial development. And so, you know, Sid gave me a perspective from a resident's point of view, not understanding why the district would even contemplate ripping up green space. And we don't want to rip up green space. There's not one person on council, including myself, that wants to give up any valuable green space. We've got lots of green space in Sicamous, but when you look at downtown, I know a lady reached out to me and sent me an email saying it's just a special place to go to get away from it all. It's just there. It doesn't have to be busy all the time. It's just there. It's got picnic tables, beautiful trees. We don't ideally want to rip up any commercial green space or dedicated park space. We're just looking for a home. For all the reasons I said earlier, we're trying to find a way to save both projects. On 200 Main, what's being proposed is, it's 1.5 acres. What we're proposing is a low impact healing center designed by our lead architect that encompasses the area and maintains half of the park, the 0.75 acres on the west side, as open community green space. What does that mean? It could be an outdoor skating rink like Stewart Park in Kelowna. It could be trails. It could be just the way it is now, nothing more than a passive setting. What we want to do is incorporate 200 Main to be this place where you've got outdoor community space integrated with indoor community space. Because the medical clinic's not going to be an institutional medical clinic like my age group understood it to be, which is institutional, cold, and not inviting. Why we're excited with Douglas Cardinal is this is a place where people can come in even if you don't have an appointment, because we want public space. And so we're trying to integrate the design of this building to take advantage of half that park and maintain it as green. But the short answer is we'd love to find another spot. I would love to find another spot that showcases this facility. It doesn't cost a lot of money, where we don't have to incur any more debt. We're looking, and council's open to any suggestions. I've been focusing on Finland. We're trying to bring this to the downtown for all the reasons we talked about. So we understand the importance of parks. That's my background in my university education, parks planning. I get it. I really enjoy 200 Main also. So I guess what I'm saying is we're trying to incorporate both, minimize the impact of the building, maximize the potential of green space, go horizontal, don't go vertical, and try to incorporate the indoor-outdoor community space concept in its design.
Okay, we are going to ask this question from somebody online. When can the residents of Sicamous expect the DOS to provide up-to-date and independently conducted community impact studies on the loss of our essential community green space and the development of the original healing center in our downtown core? So when can we expect up-to-date, independently conducted community impact studies regarding this?
That question's been asked before at a council meeting. One of the most pressing issues we know, and there has been an impact study done in terms of housing needs assessment, is affordable, attainable housing. And that's what we're doing. 200 Main, as everyone knows, the district's been accused of saying it's not a park. It is a park. It has been a place used as a park. We all have used it as a park. When we say it's not a park, we're not saying it's not used as a park. We know it's used as a park. What we're saying is it's a commercial zone property as per the Local Government Act. It's not in our parks bylaw.
It wasn't purchased in 2015 for that purpose. It was used as a park. What we're trying to do is, again, I don't need to repeat myself with this new facility and keeping the green space. But in terms of the community impact, we know what the impact is if we don't provide housing. That we do know because we have a housing needs assessment going on. And we know there's a tremendous backlog of people looking for housing. That's where our impact focus is right now. We have lots of green space throughout the community. We've got a whole chart dedicated to that. We're trying to minimize the impact on 200. So we don't believe there's necessary time and money to be spent with a consultant telling us how many acres of parkland we have already. We already know that. We know where the bulk of the activity happens, whether it's Beach Park, Finland, or on Main Street. Our impact analysis is on the housing side of the equation. Where do we put the housing and bring in the necessary folks to keep this community going and paying the bills? And that's what our focus has been on. In terms of the question to council, will council engage in impact? That's a decision council has to take. I've heard it. I'm sure council's heard it, and they will entertain that question. But right now, there are no plans to do a community impact on a parcel that's commercially zoned, used as a park. That's the short answer.
Okay, a statement and then a couple of questions. When COVID is done, we're really going to need green space. Someone's good thought. And then the follow-up question the same person asked. In regard to 530 Main Street, the Mountain Park Motorsports Building, why did the fellow buy tanks to go in the ground if he did not have an approval of the development permit? And remember, and then this one too, why is he applying for a liquor license next to a high school?
Why is he applying for a liquor license next to the high school? Is he? Not to my knowledge. Scott?
One of his concept is a restaurant that serves alcohol.
I see, thank you. So one of the proposed uses in their DP is a restaurant with alcohol? Okay, short answer, it's his risk. If he's buying equipment and tanks and applying for liquor licenses without a development permit, I mean, the development permit is still before council, that's his risk, and he has a right to do that. A lot of developers do that. He's purchased the land. He's got a proposal in front of us. I spent an hour this morning with MOTI talking about the MOTI statutory right-of-way, the District of Sicamous statutory right-of-way, access in and out, traffic flows, queuing, etc. The DP is still before council. It's scheduled to go November 10th. But in terms of he, the developer, incurring costs after he purchased it, but before the issuance of the DP, that's at his own risk. There's no exposure to the DOS.
I'll make sure we have some wireless mics for a 6 o'clock. This juggling, the doctor did not anticipate to be a farrier of a microphone. Pretty good. Steve, do you remember your last question, sir?
I do. First of all, I'd like to thank the table for very lengthily answering some of the questions. I've got some very quick, short answers. The property 200 Main Street mainly was used for park activities and activities put on by the district since it's.
Yes.
And was it advertised as such when it was purchased that it would park? Was that not put in through the media? And I think that the elected mayor at that point made comments towards that. Yes, or no, please.
Yes, and actually, in fact, I made that comment.
Are we disclosing to the public of this community that as recent as August 11th, 21, there's been a rezoning format being produced by the district, clearly showing that 200 Main Street is designated as P3 Park General. First reading being passed on August 11th, 21.
Yeah. Yes.
Does the public know that?
Yes. In the new zoning bylaw, which we're going public consultation prior to meeting with Habitat, that was the plan, Steve.
Okay.
That was the plan.
So that was in August, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah, that's right.
okay, so we're spending money doing that, doing the rezoning, and then we're just making the change, and we're gonna move the building that we asked for the grant was 200 Main Street and the addiction center and everything. Then we switched it to the 400 block Main Street, and now because Habitat has approached the district, we want to move it to the last remaining, correct me if I'm wrong, green space within the downtown core of Sicamous.
Correct.
Correct, thank you.
It's not an addiction center, Steve. Come on, be fair.
I am being fair.
It's not an addiction center.
It goes hand in hand. You all know that. I don't want.
It's not an addiction center, sir. All right.
Okay, this is to the gentleman with Habitat. I'd like to comment to some of your answers. Firstly, what Habitat and the district is proposing is called infill construction. Infill construction is commonly known, you take the old houses down, 3 of them maybe, and a big chunk of land, you knock them out, you put in multi-housing, higher tax base, more taxation for the district, so on and so forth. Affordable housing, in my 50 years in the construction industry, turns into, quote, and this is not for, this is without prejudice, okay, the slums of tomorrow. And almost every builder that I've worked for in the province of Alberta and British Columbia in the last almost, not quite, has made those comments. It's about tax base and money moving forward. The downtown core works in Calgary to do infill construction, to remove the old and put up a new. It doesn't work in a town like Sicamous that has a full population of 2,000 people, rough and dirty, which is 5,000 with Alberta taxpayers and grows due to tourism in the summer. It is about location. I'm not against your development. I'm all for development and I support it. Also, I'd like to ask you from Habitat, is Habitat planning on tendering these projects or will they be volunteer-based, which is historical with Habitat? And my background is one of the largest construction companies, framing contractor in the province of Alberta for many years, thousands of units with Habitat extensively. So my question is, will local trades be given opportunities to tender the multifamily and commercial projects on 400 block and 200 Main Street if it moves forward with these? For the record, I'm against opposed.
You are against the housing project?
No, I'm against development. I'm against.
Against development?
No, I'm against location. I made that very clear. Only the location. I have nothing wrong with Habitat. I'm happy to hear about development. I wish I had more facts for that. I actually contacted the district about 2 weeks ago about a piece of property. Okay, development in this town is fantastic. We need housing. We know that. We don't need it downtown, and we don't need a healing center that's being proposed. Our last attainable green space. My last comment is October the 13th council meeting. A group of us, myself specifically, asked for a proper town hall meeting. We were promised that. It is my opinion that in the many town hall meetings, this is not a proper town hall meeting. Proper town hall meeting is when we all get to speak, not just get to hear from the others, from the other side. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, first of all, I've been in the industry as long or longer than you. I started in 75 and I built all over North America. And I would challenge you on your assessment that building a multifamily project in the downtown of Sicamous is going to bring in the Chicago slums. I have heard that from NIMBYs in North America. I worked in the States and Canada. I hear that argument every time we go to do a project. So without getting a long diatribe, I simply don't agree with you. And in the, well, that's a two-way street.
You're insulted.
In answer to your question about Habitat, the Habitat model originally was like the Midnight Build program, where they built one house at a time using volunteers. That model has gone away. And yes, all the trades and the locals will be given an opportunity to bid on the work. And provided that they're affordable and they meet all the safety requirements, we'll certainly entertain the bids. We try to bring as much business locally as possible, whether it's a trade, a supplier, a contractor, a service industry, a lumber manufacturer, whatever. First opportunity comes to the local community. So that is an integral part of what we do. We are also a licensed and registered general contractor, housing developer through BC Housing, insured in the new home warranty program. So we have the capacity of building any of this or all of it. But like I said, we will provide the opportunity to all local businesses to participate in the development of this project.
Okay.
Yes, it's 4:40. So now I've been asked, since we've asked all the questions that I was given, and we've allowed many more, I will ask each of the folks on the panel to give us a short closing statement.
So for me, and my interest is for the health and well-being of this community and all of its residents. I think it's paramount to your future, to attracting new and emerging young professionals, families, to have some of those things that are requirements when one seeks to either move someplace or stay and put down roots. Without the services of a community health center, it would put really all of your residents at risk, both from a personal health and well-being standpoint and from having a robust community. So I think that's what I take away from this town hall is you have an advantage in that you've been able to retain your current medical providers and the support staff around those individuals, being able to develop retail, commercial, housing, all of these other amenities in your community makes it an attractive place, not only for those who live here today, but for those families that you want coming in and down the road. You want them to stay. Some of them are your own family members. So
No?
I just want to say, look, the Habitat for Humanity Countless is a nonprofit charitable society. We're not here to sell you anything. We have an opportunity in front of us that, and in front of the community and the council to partner on developing some attainable housing. And a unique project that we've done is an awful lot of work, preliminary design efforts. So look at us as an opportunity and we're here to help. I'm not here to sell you anything. We're here to help you get some housing that is pretty evident and needed. It's in the OCP, it's in the regional needs analysis, in the Columbia Shuswap housing needs assessment. We are responding to a need, and we are providing an opportunity for this community to meet that need. So look at us as a partner. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Can I just,
Yep, of course.
Rona, you have something you'd like to say?
Thank you. Steve, I have to say, I don't know who you are, but I was very offended by your comment about low income housing. We have the Haven that is providing a nice, safe home for lots of people in our community. And I guess if you have a society that's not giving a darn, it can wind up looking like that. But we are a community, a region that's based on many people living below the poverty line, and they need a place to live. And this is an opportunity. I'm not saying that I'm in favor of Habitat for Humanities. Of course, I'm in favor of our project, but you need to recognize that we are not downtown Calgary in this area, and low-income housing is what we need. And the Haven was built in the early 70s. It stood the test of time, and God willing, we will keep it going to provide safe, quality homes for people for many long years. I could not leave without saying that. I'm sorry you upset me greatly.
No, and Rhonda to respond.
You guys can talk about that later. We only have a minute, Steve. Okay,
But what I will say.
Steve, you can talk to Rona later,
that we do
okay?
not need
Steve.
affordable housing, like quite the contrary.
Hey, Steve.
We do need
Hey,
affordable
Steve.
housing.
you see, there's a whole parking lot talk later, okay? Thank you.
No, I'm not gonna repeat a lot of what I said. I tried to cover as much as I can. Maybe tonight I can talk a little about truth and reconciliation, clarify some of those questions. You know, to the question about the town hall, I believe there's gonna be another one. I think there has to be another one. I don't know what the format will be, but we're a small community and we want to get, this is a very friendly room. 50 is a perfect number. I think there's gonna be more. We still have to design this building. I know council and I have talked about getting some stakeholder and public engagement, working with our architect in the design of both projects. We want to make sure it's right for the community. So that's all I'm going to say on that. I could talk for hours on a lot of these. This is for you folks to ask questions. I believe there's going to be another one. I've been asked by the mayor if he would like to say a few words. So Terry.
First off, I want to thank you all for coming and joining us at the town hall meeting. I certainly want to thank the panel, being and Evan and Bill. I hope that they've clarified and answered some of your questions. So when it comes to the attainable housing side of it, and of course the medical center, and I want to just make this comment on behalf of council. Very, very tough decisions to make as we purchased the medical clinic in order to keep doctors here in this town. We also have to fight hard in order to keep Parksville Elementary open here a few years back because the school district was going to close down our elementary school. One of the biggest issues that we have here in this community is these challenges. And as I look around this room today, I don't see very many young people. And the importance of bringing young people into this community is our future. And how do we bring the young people into this community when we're looking at something like fiber optics right now to bring the tech sector here and create some sort of economic development for this community and encourage young people to come to our community? Because the young people are our future. So we have to consider some of these particular projects and how important they are and how difficult it has been for council in order to make the decisions on the property that we have and that we can actually have purchased and we're able and could afford to purchase this land. And we're basically at the end of our rope with it. And so we have basically 3 major projects. We have been given $10 million from different levels of government in order to perform and bring these projects to fruition. Yes, it's difficult when we talk about 200 Main Street. I even called it a park when we were having Canada Day a few years ago, and nobody enjoys playing ball hockey more than I do. And what it was able to represent at a certain time. But right now we're using it maybe for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks out of the year. You have to give us the opportunity to give you what we're planning on putting onto that particular piece of property. When the architect does the concept design for it, Navene's been part of this and she's totally comfortable with what we're going to see. Green space, how important is it to the community? Absolutely essential. We have a lot of green space in this community already with Felix, Beach Park, and so forth out at Old Town Bay. And we know how important that green space is. But part of the development back of Habitat Humanity and with Eagle Valley Housing Society is we want to put an area in there of green space for the community. We want to combine the medical center with green space. So I can understand your concern when it comes to green space because it's legitimate. We only have so many options on what we can do. Council, right from the very get-go, has been fighting desperately to keep medical care in this community. We went out on a limb. We bought the medical clinic. We bought the Beestone building. Dr. Beach was going to retire. We've gone through some options. We now have 3 different doctors working, and we're taking a look at something that happened in Chetwynd, British Columbia. Chetwynd, British Columbia, several years ago, did not have any doctors. They could not convince a doctor to come to their community. So the council has dated this. They decided to build a medical clinic. No doctors. None. They went out on the land, they got the land, and they built the medical clinic. And within 2 years, they had 5 doctors in a brand new facility working for their community within the district of Chetwynd. That's a prime example of what you have to go through when you're trying to keep your medical, the medical professionals in line. And it's not just about doctors, it's about massage therapists, it's about, but being said, you know, it's a combination of the importance of this particular clinic coming to Sicamous. And could we build it somewhere else in the community? If we could afford to build it somewhere else in the community, we would. What we could do is this. We could do this. We could earn, or we could arrange to have the money to buy different properties. But we would have to sell 200 Maine in order to do it. Who would we sell it to? Would we sell it to a developer? What would they do with it? Would you rather see a medical clinic there with some green space and have it so that it's beneficial to your community? I don't want to use the word change. It's not about change, it's about progression. And it's about benefits to the community. I think that this council has answered a lot of questions. I really have to give them a lot of praise for what they've done for the community and for the town hall. And we're going to go into the next town hall. But at the end of the day, community's choice. Anyway, thank you, and thank you for being here, and thanks to the panel. And let's look forward to the next meeting at 6 o'clock.
So, folks, you've got a chance now to grab Post-it notes or blank pieces of paper here. There's more questions that you can ask and go in that box. More coming in online that we will continue to answer. And as Mr. Parliament said, you're going to have chances at future town halls as well. This is just the beginning, and so you're going to have a chance to get all your questions answered, and we'll make sure we do that. So for now, we'll wrap it up. I'm going to go home and let the dogs out because I left at 7:30 this morning, and I'm going to go let the dogs out and come back, fix up some wireless mics for the next crowd. So keep your talks going out in the parking lot, and thank you to the Senior Center for hosting us today.